The pursuit of happiness is a journey as old as humanity itself. Across centuries, cultures, and philosophies, one question has persisted. What is the true path to a fulfilling life? For the Stoics, the answer lies not in the external trappings of success, wealth, or fame, but in something far more profound and enduring: virtue. Virtue, they argue, is the only true good, the cornerstone of a life well lived, and the key to unlocking a happiness that is unshakable, resilient, and deeply meaningful. This is not a happiness that depends on the whims of fortune or the approval of others. It is a happiness that arises from within, rooted in the cultivation of character, wisdom, and moral excellence. To understand why the Stoics placed such unwavering emphasis on virtue, we must first explore what they meant by this term and how it shapes the very fabric of their philosophy. Virtue, in the Stoic sense, is not merely about being a good person in the conventional way we might think of it today. It is not about following societal norms or adhering to a set of rules. Rather, it is about aligning oneself with the natural order of the universe, living in harmony with reason, and embodying the highest ideals of human excellence. The Stoics identified four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Each of these virtues represents a facet of a well-rounded and morally upright character. Wisdom allows us to discern what is truly good and to navigate life's complexities with clarity and insight. Courage empowers us to face adversity with strength and resilience, to stand firm in the face of fear and uncertainty. Justice calls us to treat others with fairness, compassion, and respect, recognizing the inherent dignity of every human being. And temperance teaches us to exercise self-control, to master our desires and impulses, and to live a life of balance and moderation. These virtues are not isolated qualities but are deeply interconnected, each reinforcing and supporting the others. Together, they form the foundation of a life lived in accordance with nature and reason, a life that is both morally admirable and deeply fulfilling. But why did the Stoics believe that virtue alone is the true good? To answer this, we must delve into their understanding of what it means to live a good life and how virtue serves as the ultimate measure of human flourishing. For the Stoics, the good life is not defined by external achievements or material possessions. These things, they argue, are indifferent. They are neither good nor bad in themselves. What matters is how we use them, how we respond to them, and the choices we make in relation to them. Wealth, for example, can be used wisely or foolishly. It can be a tool for creating positive change or a source of corruption and greed. Similarly, health, reputation, and even life itself are subject to the whims of fortune. They can be taken away at any moment, and their value is ultimately determined by the way we approach them. Virtue, on the other hand, is entirely within our control. It is not dependent on external circumstances, but is a product of our own will, our own choices, and our own character. This is why the Stoics regarded virtue as the only true good. It is the one thing that cannot be taken away from us, the one thing that remains steadfast, even in the face of life's greatest challenges. Imagine, for a moment, a ship caught in a storm. The winds howl, the waves crash, and the vessel is tossed about on the raging sea. The passengers may feel fear, panic, and despair, but the skilled captain remains calm and composed. He does not control the storm, but he does control how he responds to it. He steers the ship with skill and determination, drawing on his knowledge, experience, and inner strength. In this metaphor, the storm represents the external circumstances of life, the things we cannot control. The ship is our life, and the captain is our rational mind, guided by virtue. No matter how fierce the storm, the captain's virtue remains unshaken. He may not be able to calm the waves, but he can navigate them with wisdom, courage, and resilience. This is the essence of the Stoic path to happiness, a happiness that is not dependent on external conditions, but is rooted in the unwavering commitment to virtue. But how do we cultivate this kind of virtue? How do we develop the wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance that the Stoics so highly prized? The answer lies in the practice of Stoicism itself, a philosophy that is not merely theoretical but deeply practical. The Stoics believe that virtue is not something we are born with, but something we must actively cultivate through deliberate practice and reflection. This requires a commitment to self-examination, a willingness to confront our own flaws and shortcomings, and a dedication to continuous growth and improvement. It is a lifelong journey, one that demands discipline, effort, and perseverance. One of the most powerful tools the Stoics offer for cultivating virtue is the practice of mindfulness, the ability to observe our thoughts, emotions, and actions with clarity and objectivity. By becoming more aware of our inner world, we can begin to identify the patterns of thought and behavior that lead us away from virtue and toward vice. We can recognize when we are acting out of fear, anger, or desire, and we can choose to respond with reason and wisdom instead. This practice of mindfulness is not easy. It requires us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, to acknowledge our weaknesses, and to take responsibility for our actions. But it is through this process of self-awareness and self-discipline that we can begin to align ourselves with the Stoic ideal of virtue. Another key aspect of Stoic practice is the cultivation of gratitude and acceptance. The Stoics believe that much of our suffering arises from our resistance to the natural order of things. We cling to what we desire and reject what we fear, creating a constant state of inner turmoil. By learning to accept the things we cannot change and to focus on what is within our control, we can free ourselves from this cycle of suffering and find peace in the present moment. This does not mean that we should passively resign ourselves to fate or abandon our aspirations. Rather, it means that we should approach life with a sense of equanimity, recognizing that external events are ultimately indifferent and that our true power lies in our ability to choose how we respond to them. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of community and the interconnectedness of all human beings. They believe that we are social creatures by nature and that our happiness is deeply tied to our relationships with others. Virtue, therefore, is not just a personal pursuit but a social one. It calls us to treat others with kindness, compassion, and respect, to contribute to the common good, and to recognize our shared humanity. This sense of interconnectedness is beautifully captured in the Stoic concept of the cosmic city, a vision of the universe as a single, harmonious community in which all human beings are citizens. By embracing this vision, we can transcend the narrow boundaries of self-interest and cultivate a sense of purpose and belonging that enriches both our own lives and the lives of those around us. At its core, the Stoic path to happiness is a path of transformation. It is a journey from the superficial and fleeting pleasures of the external world to the deep and enduring joy that comes from living a life of virtue. It is a journey from fear and anxiety to courage and peace, from ignorance and confusion to wisdom and clarity, from selfishness and greed to justice and compassion. This journey is not without its challenges. It requires us to confront our own limitations, to face the uncertainties of life with courage, and to make difficult choices in the pursuit of what is truly good. But it is also a journey of immense reward, a journey that leads us to a happiness that is not dependent on external circumstances, but is rooted in the very essence of who we are. As we walk this path, we may stumble and fall. We may encounter obstacles and setbacks, but each step we take, each choice we make in the direction of virtue, brings us closer to the Stoic ideal of a life well lived. And in those moments when we feel lost or discouraged, we can draw inspiration from the words of the Stoic philosophers who walked this path before us. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic sage, reminds us that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Epictetus, the former slave who became one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, urges us to first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And Seneca, the Stoic statesman and playwright, encourages us to associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is mutual. for men learn while they teach. These words are not mere abstractions. They are calls to action, invitations to embark on a journey of self-discovery and growth. They remind us that the pursuit of virtue is not a solitary endeavor, but a shared human experience, one that connects us to the wisdom of the past and the potential of the future. They remind us that happiness is not something we find outside ourselves, but something we cultivate within through the choices we make and the lives we lead. In the end, the Stoic path to happiness is a path of profound simplicity and profound depth. It is a path that challenges us to look beyond the superficial and the transient, to seek what is truly good and enduring. It is a path that calls us to live with integrity, to act with courage, to think with clarity, and to love with compassion. It is a path that leads us not to a fleeting moment of pleasure, but to a lasting state of fulfillment, a happiness that is not dependent on the external world, but is rooted in the very core of our being. This is the promise of Stoicism, the promise of a life lived in accordance with virtue. And it is a promise that is as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago, a beacon of hope and guidance in a world that often seems chaotic and uncertain. So let us take up this challenge. Let us embrace the Stoic path to happiness, and let us strive to live a life of virtue. For in doing so, we not only enrich our own lives, but also contribute to the well-being of those around us, creating a ripple effect of goodness that extends far beyond ourselves. This is the true power of virtue, the true essence of the Stoic philosophy, and the true path to a happiness that is unshakable, resilient, and deeply meaningful. Let us walk this path with courage, with wisdom, and with an unwavering commitment to what is truly good. And in doing so, let us discover the profound and enduring joy that comes from living a life of virtue.